And we're back with an actually pretty good commander for once. This is Kess Dissident Mage, and the reason this is happening is because I'm kind of trying to decide whether or not I want to keep playing this format. It's kind of gotten really stale for me for reasons I'm not going to go into right now, but this deck is a last-ditch effort to try to find a deck that I can enjoy playing and is decently good. So here we go. Playing against Queen Marchesa, which is a pretty powerful deck. It packs a ton of removal, which might make it hard to keep Kess online, and the inherent card advantage when you can't actually pressure their Monarch status can get out of hand pretty fast. So I know right away this is going to be kind of dangerous, but I have a decent hand for it. Night's Whisper gets me a little bit more fuel. Counterspell for Marchesa is probably a place where I want to be. Grim Lavamancer and Innocent Blood are kind of dead, but I have a decent mana base, and I have decent card advantage and counter magic, so I'm pretty happy with this hand. Let's get into it. First thing that my opponent does here is actually to play a game land, which is kind of surprising to me, and it makes me think initially that this is a not very powerful deck, or maybe budget deck. Based on the cards that we see later on, I think that it's just a budget mana base, and the rest of the deck is pretty strong. Here I'm just going to Night's Whisper, can't keep up, or I can keep up counter magic. There isn't much I'd want to counter here outside of, like, for example, Bitter Blossom. Instead of that, they hymn me. I don't think I would have countered that even if I had kept mana open, but they take a land in Grim Lavamancer, which is pretty much fine with me. I'm going to Inquisition them, and let me pause real quick there. So I Inquisitioned rather than holding up Counterspell there, because I knew that they can't cast Queen Marchesa next turn, and I wanted to get a feel for what was going on. So in their hand they had Read the Bones, Murderous Cut, Battlefield Forge, Dreadbore, Lay Bare the Heart. Now obviously I can't take both of their pieces of removal, and in fact I can't take Murderous Cut at all. And I could take Lay Bare the Heart, which can take any of the cards in my hand, but I'm not as concerned about the one-for-ones. I feel like if I can manage to get any form of card advantage going and prevent their card advantage, the one-for-ones become less relevant than the cards that get them 2-for-1, like Read the Bones, which is actually something like a 2.5-for-1 because of the Scry. So that was my reasoning there. I'm fully going to accept that they're going to take something from my hand with Lay Bare the Heart, which is certainly going to be Snapcaster Mage, is the most powerful card in my hand. And thankfully I do draw a land here, which would have been kind of awkward if I hadn't. I'm just going to play that and pass, expecting them to play Queen Marchesa if they hit a land. They hit a Nomad Outpost, not sure if they would have if they had hit an untapped land, but either way, I'm going to cycle Sweltering Suns, since it's a pretty bad 1-for-1 removal, and play Arid Mesa. This is going to give me my second black source, which is very much what I need right now, having drawn Grim Tutor. And opponent is just going to cast Painful Truths for 3, which I think is a good choice on their part. Playing Queen Marchesa into pretty well represented counter magic is probably a bad plan. At this point though, I can actually cast Grim Tutor and hold up Counterspell, and here's where my eventual plan for winning this game sort of comes together. Notion Thief is kind of brutal against this deck. It turns Queen Marchesa's ability from a Phyrexian Ringer for them into a Phyrexian Ringer for me. And it also turns off their random pieces of card advantage like Read the Bones and Painful Truth, and obviously this deck is playing both and probably more like Night's Whisper or Sign in Blood, as well as random things like actual Phyrexian Arena. Now I know that they have 2 pieces of removal in their hand, and my plan is going to be to get them to waste that on Kess and potentially be able to counter an additional piece of removal that they might have. So my roadmap for winning this game is going to come down entirely to Notion Thief. Also of note is that I have Cephalid Coliseum on board with more than 7 cards in the graveyard, which turns this into Ancestral plus Mind Twist. Now, they're going to Vindicate my Sunken Hollow here, which is kind of a strange play to me, but I don't really want to be taken off double blue, especially since I can't cast Counterspell if they do that, so I'm just going to Counterspell right here since I'll be unable to if that does happen. Drawing him to Torak here is amazing, actually. So, I could him, but I'd rather start soaking up the removal. I can't just like him on a 5-card hand and hope it gets there. What I can do instead is actually cast Kess and target them with Inquisition of Kozilek again, taking 1 piece of removal and soaking up another with Kess herself. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So they will delve for Murderous Cut, and Inquisition will resolve, revealing Dreadbore, Innocent Blood, Go for the Throat, and Council's Judgment. Now, the Sorcery Speed removal, which is 3 of these, I don't actually care about at all, because if I drop Notion Thief on their end step, then they can't do anything about it, and I can Cephalid Coliseum away the rest of their hand on my turn. Cephalid Coliseum plus Hymn to Torak if they don't play any more cards. So I'm going to take the Go for the Throat as obviously the best card that they have. On their turn, they're just going to slam Marchesa, which I am super fine with. It gives them one card to draw that can actually deal with Notion Thief, or rather two, since they will have the draw on their next turn as well. But I can check out their first draw with Cataxian Probe, and I think I see Fiery Confluence here. Sorry, I kind of skipped past that pretty fast. And I'm just going to go ahead and hitting Fiery Confluence and Council's Judgment, as well as killing off Queen Marchesa, since I won't have an option to when Notion Thief is on the board. Here, they're down to 2 cards in hand, which I know both their cards. I'm not sure why they didn't cast Queen Marchesa here, but it wouldn't really have mattered. I can now cast Notion Thief in response to the Monarchy trigger, and draw the card instead of them. And the card that I draw is Yawgmoth, so which is really going to put a lid on this game. Although I do this in a way that doesn't really make sense. I cast Yawgmoth and get back Hymn to Torok, which I'm not sure why I did that in retrospect, because I can just Cephalic Coliseum on their draw step and take 3 cards out of their hand anyway, which I do end up doing. So I think that was pretty clearly a mistake. Regardless, I do still get a land out of the deal and the ability to draw a card with Cataxian Probe, so it wasn't a terrible play. It just could have been a bit better if I had cast Night's Whisper, for example, instead of Hymn to Torok. Regardless, I'm going to steal the Monarchy, draw a card end step, and then during their draw phase, draw an additional 3 cards while taking away their draw, which in this case was Merciless Eviction, something that could have gotten rid of Notion Thief, even if it's a bit inefficient at doing that. They're going to recast Queen Marchesa, obviously having no other plays, and choose not to attack for some reason. Regardless, since I'm drawing instead of them, this game is pretty much wrapped up. I'm going to go ahead and kill Marchesa, just to keep it off the board, get some attacks on with Notion Thief, and with a hand like this, I feel pretty comfortable saying this game is over, and my opponent agrees. Whew. So this was kind of an interesting game for me, because Kess really didn't do anything. All Kess did was 2 for 1 their hand, take a card out of their hand while eating a piece of removal. The crux of this game was finding my win condition from my deck and casting it, which in this case was Notion Thief, with the ability to protect it. And doing that kind of tied together a lot of things I've talked about in the past. It involved a lot of information. You saw there were multiple discard spells sent to my opponent, multiple Cataxian Probes to make sure I understood what they had. And it also kind of shows you the importance of Grim Tutor in control decks like this, or rather tutors in general. The fact that the good tutors aren't legal in this format makes these kinds of decks a lot worse, because you're kind of at the mercy of your draws. And in a game like this in particular, you really need some sort of engine for card advantage, because Queen Marchesa is a complete monster on her own. So you're basically obligated to either play a similarly incredible commander like Leovold or Thrasios or something, or you have to have a super high density of incredibly impactful cards. Now, Kess does a pretty good impression of these kinds of commanders, but the fact that she doesn't immediately get value unless you have the ability to flashback in the same turn is kind of a big problem. You can play Queen Marchesa and you're the Monarch now, and you're the Monarch essentially forever with the incredibly high removal density this deck packs. You can play Leovold and be guaranteed that if they remove Leovold, you'll at least get a card out of it. You play Kess, have 4, and she could just die, and that'll be the end of it. Like, I played Kess here to 1 for 1 with a removal spell. It's kind of not great, and I don't really have a solution for this. It's just something I've been thinking about more with regards to this format. Your commander kind of has to be broken for it to be viable in this format, and I think that's in large part because the good card selection and tutors are not legal in the format. It's one of the things I've been thinking about, but I've kind of gone off track with what this game is actually about. Either way, hope you enjoyed it, and have a good night.